Hey, Aharon, always good to spend a little time with you, jamming about automotive technology and just the world that we're living in, because it's auto and it's great, right?
Yes, indeed. Good to be here, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so first off, I want to ask you about, because you and your partners wrote a book recently that was all about just kind of where we're at in auto, where the future is headed, specifically on the retail side. Why that book and why now?
Yeah, we called the book The Last Dealership, Yishai, Eliav, and I. And it starts with this sort of dystopian future in 2047 in August in the Midwest, where the last family-owned franchised dealership in the United States, called Warden Toyota, is about to close its doors. And then
I love it already.
It tells the history of that future backwards as to what happened and why the doors had to be closed and how everything conspired to undermine the family-owned franchise model. And it talks about why that model was really important, right, and what we lost, right, by losing that. And then the whole book is essentially trying to make sure that that future doesn't happen. And that's where we get away from the fiction and into the nonfiction, the boring stuff. But we talk about really how auto dealerships have a great position in this amazing transportation supply industry, right? That gets people that core need of getting places faster, more safely, more secure, in more comfort. And if the dealerships and the OEMs and the powers that be can align data and align the information space in auto, then they should be able to continue to compete really effectively with potential disruptors such as the Amazons of the world and the Walmarts of the world and others who would probably love to get their hands in on the auto industry and, frankly, to dominate it and turn it into what they've done with every other industry. So that's what the book's about.
Look, fun. There's this thing, like when you think of the U.S. auto industry, right? Like the U.S. in general is this kind of experiment, and like there's not really anything else like it that's gone this long or has done it like this. A lot of people said it would never make it this long, and I feel like the auto industry is very similar, right? There's nothing else like it. No one else does it quite like this, and all of our logic and the way we look at other business, it's like it should have like come apart in the model that it is. But we see this family-owned dealership, this local business, still like incredibly resilient, because I would say because it's a part of the fabric of the country, which is why you can't just like pull one thread and have it go. Like, I didn't expect the conversation to go this way, but I feel like I wish we had 3 hours now. We're gonna need some smoking jackets and like a room at ASOTU so we can just like sit around and ponder.
It's a fascinating subject, isn't it? Because if you think about the positive externalities of auto, it's hard to describe them all, because it's a community rooted business, right? So these businesses are actually answerable to their local communities. So you have billionaires, right? These billionaires who own dealerships, or mega millionaires, who are sensitive to the review that Kyle or Aharon or Paul leave on Facebook. Why? Because they understand that
someone that just bought a $13,000 Nissan Versa, right? Like that.
100%, and that's a really unique.
Do those exist?
Thing. Secondly, you have very little ability to kind of hedge that, right? Because dealerships tend to still be regional, and then they're. I mean, look, the truth is, it's amazing to see an industry where people who didn't go to sort of the traditional pathways of getting high-paying jobs, right, who kind of were able to just do it on a meritocratic basis, can really make really good livings. That's also something that's really valuable for a middle-class democracy. And you don't see that often, right? Imagine, there's that notion of the Walmart effect, which we talk about in the book, right? The Walmart effect is something that's been studied. Again, I don't know. How true is it? They think it's true. When a Walmart comes into a region, every downtown within 150 miles tends to shift over. All the businesses that used to do the stuff Walmart would do go away because it's so cheap at Walmart. And other businesses come in, but it kind of kills the downtown. And I think that there's something really important for us to realize, that like this industry has created a nexus of accretive value to society. Again, there's also things that are challenging about it, right? And you think about the transportation model, but it's accretive value to society that would probably go away if you took away the family franchise model and you just let it to be run by, again, centralized operators.
Retail
that don't really have
automotive, a creative value to society. Like, put that on a print ad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we'll leave that to ASOTU. You guys will.
I like it. I like it. All right. So obviously, anyone that has like a thing that they can see all the way to, whatever that is, like 22 years in the future, the idea, there's always a track back to what are we going to do today about it if our business is potentially impacted by that. And you guys have really been looking at the data model of auto, not just of Fullpath, but of auto, and saying, hey, it needs a rewrite. It needs more access. It needs, not just these silos. And you've recently come out with something that gives dealers more of the ability to hedge against that future state, right? Talk a little bit about what you guys have released.
Yeah. So about 2 years ago, we announced that Fullpath was creating a combination CDP and marketing automation platform. We called it a CDP, customer data platform, and then we called it a CDXP because it also does experience, customer experience. That's the marketing side. And what we did in those early days was really just put dealership data into one clean database where you could really get to the view of one customer kind of in a 360 way. So you could say, here is Michael, and here's everything we know about Michael, everything that Michael seems to have ever done that we can track. And also, by the way, there's 4 or 5 Michaels in your system who are actually one guy. So let's pull them all together. It's called resolving identity. So we did that starting a couple of years ago because we were doing it anyways for our marketing automation. And over the past year and a half, we've really enriched and enhanced that. And today we released, meaning over the past month, we've released significant new capabilities for dealerships. They include the ability to, it sounds techie and nerdy, but build audiences. So query audiences. So you could say, show me anyone and everyone who's ever been on my website, maybe who hasn't even converted recently. Maybe they converted 7 years ago, right? But we know that because we pulled all the data into one picture. And they have positive equity, maybe, and they may have looked at a certain model VDP. And now I want that list, and I want to save that as an audience, okay? Now, once you save that as an audience, you have a lot of power. You can market to that audience. You can send that audience to a vendor. You can make a quote-unquote grind list for your salespeople to call at the end of the month to try to move the last few Ram trucks, right? And Fullpath CDP now is operating independently of Fullpath marketing automation. So for the first time in our ecosystem, dealers can just use the CDP. They can just get the audience, the data connectivity, and then they have an API, an endpoint that they can push out to Google, to Facebook, to vendors, where they can stream the data. And what's great about streaming the data is that it means the data is not static. So for example, you could say anyone who has not purchased a car or not serviced recently. Well, the minute someone services, they should be removed from that audience. Great. We suppress them the minute they show up for service in the DMS, they get suppressed out of that audience and they can go into other audiences or no audience. And that stream of data keeps it accurate for the vendors, for Facebook, for Google, for your email partners, or whoever you might be working with. Or if you want, you can also export it as a single flat file and you have it as a one-off. Here's the snapshot at this moment of time of everyone who fits this criteria. So we have now enabled dealers to do that. We also give them a map of their data so they can see all the data we've connected into the CDP, how much data we're tracking. We give them suggested audiences so they don't have to do it from scratch. We also give them reports that, we're all trying as an industry to come up to speed on GA4, and it's challenging. The CDP allows you to do a lot of analytics and reports, and we build those in and bake those in. We also give them vehicle views where they can see a 360 picture on every vehicle, what price changes have happened over time, who's visited it over time. All of that information is now presented in the Fullpath CDP. Now,
what you're saying is, like, I'm thinking back to your original thesis, right? And the last dealership. These are technologies that we see massive retail using on a regular basis. right? And you think of the Nikes, and
Correct.
they just leverage this data in this manner on a regular basis, which is why you get relevant email ads and pop-up, display ads when you were shopping for shoes, or it's been a year since you've shopped for shoes, and all of a sudden, like, they're back in your world because they know your buying pattern is every 12 months. And so it sounds like now, in order to like preserve what we lost in the book and the fictional picture in your book, you're doing that on a dealer by dealer basis, right? You're putting that power in the hands of a local family owned dealership that, like, the big players in retail, Nike, are using, or maybe also like the big Publix or the big groups and the CarMaxes that might be leveraging this technology as well. So like, I'm like hearing you talk about all these things, and it's like you're just drawing a big circle around it, and you're like, see, this is our belief, and we're building technology that preserves the belief, which is pretty unique and special in this industry.
Yeah, I'll say two things about that. The first is that the auto technology landscape is complex. It's complex for a lot of reasons. It's complex because of how it evolved. When a gifting cookie company has the best contact list and then becomes a CRM and builds APIs over years, that's not the same as Salesforce. Opening up in an apartment in 2001 and being like, we're going to build the best APIs on the planet, right? It's a different animal, and that's fine. We're great. We love that about auto. That's the quirkiness of it. But there is a trade-off, and Fullpath is going to announce, this may be the first time we're saying it, but we now have like 201 technology integrations, by which I mean not that the vendor has necessarily agreed to integrate with us, but we can read their data, we can extract their data, and if they're willing to, we can push them data back. So imagine a world where a chat, any chat, can accept data from our CDP, where when Kyle lands on the website, okay, we know it's Kyle. Why? Because we did a database join of his cookie, and we now know his history from 10 years back. I can tell them, hey, listen, here's 4 cars Kyle's probably going to be excited about. When you in the chat suggest cars, suggest these 4 first. Why? Because I know that there's a higher probability he's going to convert. Okay. That's what I'm talking about. That's the level that Amazon's working at. We need every dealership from CarMax down to a single point, in the middle of the country to be able to do that. And that's what the CDP allows. Now, the real power is when you pair it with our marketing automation platform, which is built into the CDP, but we're not forcing you to do that. So if you have another vendor you like, great, go work with them. That was the big move we made this year. Now, the second thing I'll say about this is that a lot of dealers they're chasing the siren song of non-automotive software. They believe that out there in the world, is a CDP that is going to be integrated, or a big BI tool with a CDP that's going to be integrated easily into DealerSocket and eLeads and Ray and CDK and CarChat24, and it's not going to happen. It's really, really difficult to create those integrations. And I highly recommend that dealers, before they go and spend a significant amount of time and money on these non-auto products, that they do look at the ones that are coming out of the industry, because all of us are coming from the same sort of genre of that outside vendor. And yet we've been doing the dirty, difficult work of wiring up and building the connectors to the auto software. There's one solution that we're seeing, which is some of them are using software like Fullpath to pipe data into some of those outside vendors. But at this point, I think there's a case to be made, and I think a very strong case, that if you want to hitch your horse to the right wagon, it's the CDPs that are coming out of the industry. Obviously, I'm speaking for myself. There's probably others that you guys are going to talk to. But those two things are really important points, that suddenly the CDP now is a standalone. It works. It integrates lots of data. You can use it with any vendor you want. You could hook it up with our marketing automation and get benefits of that connectivity. And then secondly, beware going to foreign lands looking for your CDP, because you're going to get bit when you try to actually connect the data and do it in a persistent way. Not an easy thing to do.
My goodness. Kyle, did you have another question?
No, that was it. I'm all fired up here.
I know.
I'll buy a CDP tomorrow.
It's unbelievable. Aharon, look, I think it's very special and unique that we have someone not that believes in what they're building or believes in a greater thesis, and they see where their thing that they're building plugs into that, but I think it's someone who is able to articulate it as well as you and Fullpath has. And I just want to thank you for that, because I think it's a massive contributor to the industry, not just the technology, but also the ability to articulate why. That's what we're about here. It definitely is a more than cars perspective on the industry. So thanks for sharing some time with us today. Thanks for sharing your insight and technology with us. And I can't wait to read the book, and I'm going to read it before Kyle. I'm going to promise you that right now.
Amazing. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you guys. It's so great to spend time with you and to feel like we're together driving the industry forward.